TikTok is wild right now. Everyone's throwing out different advice about gut health. It's hard to know what's real. My name is Dr. Daniel Ricciardi. I'm a licensed pharmacist and functional medicine practitioner. This week, I'm going to be diving into TikTok and looking at the videos that are trending on the topic of gut health myths. We're going to check out what everyone's been buzzing about, and I'm going to give you my unfiltered takes about what's truth and what's myth. Let's see what happens.
All right, listen up. I have perfect gut health. I can eat whatever I want and it all comes out the same. Here are the 3 rules, the 3 tips you need to follow to get better gut health, and they're absolutely free. I'm not selling you anything. Number 1, increase your protein take by any means possible. Whole food is great, yes, but if you could supplement with some protein bars and reach there, that's fine as well.
Starting out by saying you have perfect gut health. I'm very happy for this guy. Everything comes out the same. I'm sure he's talking about bowel movements. That's also great for this guy. With that said, though, if everything comes out the same, the first thing I think is, do I want to take his advice gut health wise? Because he's literally saying like whatever he does, it doesn't matter. Protein bars, a lot of them have additional gums, fillers, additives that make them a little bit harder to digest. So that wouldn't necessarily be my personal favorite in trying to get additional protein.
Tip number 2, get more fiber. This is probably the best thing for your overall gut health. 95% of Americans do not reach their daily fiber intake goal.
This is probably true. Most of us probably could use a little bit more fiber. Obviously, there's a few scenarios where this may not be best for everyone, but in general, sure.
Some great products for this, obviously fruits, vegetables, but if you don't want to do those, low-calorie tortillas like carb counter wraps, or basically any low-calorie bread is filled with fiber.
I like the fruits and vegetables thing. Some of the low-calorie wraps, low-calorie bread. Again, I'm a little bit worried on ingredients and kind of the additives that they're having in these products.
They also make stuff like Fiber One brownies. I mean, fuck it, even like these Joyride candy sweets have 8 grams of added fiber. Yes, of course, this isn't as good as getting your fiber in through like fruits and vegetables, but it is better than not getting it in at all.
I would probably prefer that you did not eat fiber if that was the alternative, that bag of whatever he just had.
This brings me to tip number 3, bro. Eat prebiotics, or eat basically anything that's alive. I'm talking kimchi, I'm talking sauerkraut, I'm talking kefir.
I would agree. Prebiotics for almost everybody is going to be a good option for supporting your gut microbiome.
Gotta debunk this gut health myth right now. No greens powder is going to heal your gut. No greens powder is going to cure your painful bloating. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that.
I'd agree. This is probably true. I think the greens powder thing, the color green with supplements, just in everybody's mind, it kind of just makes everybody think that they're being healthy or eating something healthy. So they could help, but I don't think they're chalked up to all it is that they are put out to be.
And unfortunately, there are so many greens products on the market that also don't even contain quality ingredients. So if anything, they potentially may even be disrupting your gut further.
This is not something that is typically talked about, but I would agree with her on that point as well. I think the quality or the good ingredients are really highlighted in a lot of products such as green powders. But then if you go to the ingredients label and look at what's actually in it, there's some stuff lurking in there that you don't really want to be ingesting.
A quality greens powder, keyword quality, will enhance your health because it is quality greens, but it's a Band-Aid. It's not going to get to the root of the problem in any way, shape, or form.
Probably true. I would agree.
Here are the top 3 supplements that I've benefited from when it comes to gut health, and I've recommended it to many clients, and it seems to work if you combine these 3 in some sort of format.
I like how he's starting this out right now by saying these are the top 3 gut supplements that I've found to be the most helpful and the ones that he's used for his clients. Obviously, in a lot of these TikToks, when people are talking about something for 30 seconds, it's hard to have a really nuanced and detailed explanation of what you're talking about. And there's also a lot of people in the comments that'll say, well, you recommend drinking water, and when I drink water, I feel terrible. So I think by him starting out this way, I think it's a good way to start out a video, just saying, hey, this is what worked for me. If you disagree, that's cool.
Number 1 is going to be psyllium husk fiber. The one with the lowest amount of lead is usually called the Indian psyllium husk. What I do is I just throw 2 to 3, 4 tablespoons in my morning shake, and I have it, I down it, and it's amazing for your gut health. And it has a lot of other benefits which you can research on Google.
Psyllium, not typically the first supplement you'd hear when people talking about top 3 for gut health, but it sounds like it worked. I'm assuming it's helped with bowel regularity, whether it be constipation or even helping with loose stools.
Number 2, glutamine, which you can also research on ChatGPT or Gemini or Google. Plenty of evidence that indicates that it's good for your gut health.
That is true. Glutamine has a lot of research studies that show that it's supportive for your gut health, specifically with leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability. So that is true.
And number 3, something that's rarely mentioned or used, butyrate, sodium butyrate. I use tributyrin. This seems to also be very beneficial when it comes to gut health.
Okay, so this last one, this tributyrin or this butyrate, this is known as a postbiotic. So like you said, it is a little bit more rare. It's not something that a lot of people are talking about to be good for gut health, but they certainly can be beneficial.
Number 1 food, most inflammatory food on the planet, gluten. Get rid of it.
I'm going to let this go a little further. A lot of people struggle with gluten, but I kind of want to see where this goes.
Gluten is in wheat, rye, barley, oat, cakes, pasta, crackers, cookies, things like that. And gluten is a neurotoxic. Neuro mean it is bad for your brain. It's bad for your central nervous system.
So gluten isn't the actual food. It's a protein that's found in these foods that often gives the food that sticky type texture.
This food is treated with so many chemicals. It also spikes your blood sugar. This is the reason why you want to stay away from gluten. Wheat is treated about 10 times before it's actually harvested.
So when talking in the United States, this is probably true. A lot of our bread, a lot of our wheat has been treated and sprayed with a lot of herbicides, pesticides, stuff that isn't going to be good for us. This is why if you look at places like Italy or Sardinia, where they eat tons of pasta, tons of bread, and still live to be 100 years old, there's obviously a difference because there's still gluten in those foods.
If you drink any liquid along with your food, the acids that are necessary for digestive process will get diluted. Your whole digestive process gets inefficient.
All right, so we got a little bit of like an inception type thing, and it looks like I'm doing a review of a video. Kind of weird, but we'll see what happens. So I would agree with the first thing that this guy is saying. If you're drinking liquid while eating food, the digestive process can get diluted.
I have to say that there is no scientific evidence to support this statement.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with this. Let's see what he has to say a little bit further.
Let's see the normal physiology. Food passes down the esophagus into the stomach. The acidic juices in the stomach will digest the food regardless of the presence of water. Even when water is present in the stomach, it will be absorbed fairly quickly within 20 minutes.
So this is true. If you're drinking water on an empty stomach, the water is going to be absorbed pretty quickly, maybe even faster than 20 minutes.
If there is some kind of dilution present, the dilution is so small that it is clinically not significant at all.
I disagree and think that the presence of water does affect digestion, especially when you're drinking the water with the food during the meal.
Acidic stomach will secrete more acids to digest it. If the meal is more acidic, it will secrete less acid to digest the meal. It is a wonderful system that God has given.
Again, I would not disagree with this. There's actually a study, which I'll find the clip of and put it in here, that shows just drinking 1 cup of water, about 200 milliliters, which is about 6 to 7 ounces, can actually change the pH of the stomach from the 1 to 2 range, which is really acidic, to a pH of over 4. So let's assume the pH of the stomach wasn't quite as acidic and it started at 2. Going from 2 to 4 means it's 100 times less acidic, because the pH scale is called a logarithmic scale. Each number on that scale is a 10-fold increase or reduction. The main reason why I disagree with him, if you eat your meal and your stomach puts out the right amount of acid in order to digest that meal, it's calibrated everything exactly the way that it wants to. If then you go and you drink a lot more liquid, all of a sudden you've just messed up that calibration of how much stomach acid your body thinks it needs in order to digest that meal. And then you can end up having the food sit in your stomach longer and get indigestion.
So myth number 1 is that as long as you poop daily, you have no problems with your gut health. The frequency and consistency of your bowel movements only plays a small role in your overall digestion. And I don't mean small in the way that it means insignificant. I just mean that there's a lot more to it than that.
We'll see where this goes. Bowel movements definitely are important. I think if you have 1 bowel movement a day, that is good. Like she said, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is perfect. So we'll listen a little bit more.
Gut health myth number 2, you need to avoid gluten in order to have a healthy gut. Although avoiding gluten is pretty crucial for people that are celiac or even gluten sensitive, this isn't the case for every single person. Being gluten-free has somehow become like the trendy thing to do over the last few years. But I promise you, if you're just swapping bread products for gluten-free processed products like gluten-free pastas and gluten-free cookies, you're not doing anything for your gut health.
Definitely agree with that. Gluten-free obviously is a buzzword, and there's entire gluten-free sections in the grocery store. I've looked at a lot of the products and I would agree with her. A lot of the ingredients are horrendous in them. And a lot of the time I'd probably just rather have the regular bread with gluten in it, if it's a good quality bread with gluten, like a sourdough, than to have a gluten-free bread that has all these added gums, thickeners, and all these other ingredients. Basically what I'm saying is the only good redeeming quality in a lot of these gluten-free foods that you find in the grocery store is the fact that they're gluten-free. Otherwise, they're kind of crappy.
More so, a lot of gluten-containing products like whole grain bread can actually be a really great source of fiber and nutrients, which would benefit your gut health.
Yep, definitely would agree.
Here are 5 everyday foods you should avoid if you have a leaky gut. So if you get gassy, bloated, have IBS, or you just feel tired like all the time, you may want to avoid these foods. Number 1 is bread. The high amounts of gluten in bread can trigger inflammation in the gut and compromise the integrity of the intestinal lining, potentially leading to a leaky gut.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad place to start. If you're having digestive issues, try to clean up the diet a little bit. Reducing highly processed bread could be something to try.
Next up, we have anything that comes with a barcode. These foods are typically loaded with additives, preservatives, and artificial ingredients, which can disrupt the delicate balance of the gut microbiome and can contribute to the development of a leaky gut.
I like this analogy a lot. I usually say single ingredient whole foods to describe this. I've never heard this barcode analogy. I think the barcode is just referring to something that's in a bag or a box or has a weird name where based on the name of it, you don't know exactly what's in it.
Number 3 is ice cream. All that excess sugar just feeds the harmful bacteria in the gut, leading to an imbalance in the gut and excess inflammation.
Yeah, I think he's singling ice cream out right here. I think you can kind of extrapolate this to a lot of different foods with added simple carbs, simple sugars.
Number 4, artificial sweeteners. While they're often marketed as a healthier choice to sugar, they can still have detrimental effects on the gut.
I would agree with this as well. I think some stuff like sucralose, a lot of people will prefer it because it's 0 calories. So, I mean, on the surface, that is a good quality of it. I'm going to link a video I made about sucralose and why you should consider avoiding sucralose and other artificial sweeteners down in the description below, which you can check out if you want to learn more.
And number 5, alcohol. Alcohol is super toxic to the gut and can irritate the intestinal lining, which further disrupts the balance of beneficial bacteria.
I'd agree with this one as well. I rarely drink alcohol, but when I do, I typically have some bloating and my digestive tract typically feels off for 1 to 2 days after I drink. It doesn't even really seem to matter which type of alcohol it is.
The top 3 supplements I recommend as a registered dietitian specializing in gut health in 30 seconds. Let's get started. First off, you're going to start with a good quality omega-3 supplement. This is going to help to decrease inflammation in your gut. It can also be beneficial to increase foods that are high in omega-3s like walnuts and salmon.
Yeah, I mean, omega-3 is a pretty safe bet. She started talking about some foods that have omega-3. You could even throw sardines in there, which are really high in omega-3s.
Next up, we've got magnesium. Magnesium is needed for numerous chemical reactions within our body. It also happens to be a mineral that is deficient in a lot of individuals.
That is true. Magnesium is one of the 3 supplements I still take on a daily basis. The other 2 are a multivitamin and creatine. The truth is the majority of people could probably use a little bit more magnesium, and it can be difficult to get an optimum amount, which is a little bit different than the RDA, which is like the government recommended amount of magnesium in your diet.
And last but not least, we've got a good quality spore-based probiotic. This is going to help to promote a really healthy and diverse gut microbiome.
These spore-forming probiotics are ones that I've used with clients before. They're not typically ones that you'd see in fermented foods like kefir or sauerkraut, which are more lactobacillus. So if you just took a round of antibiotics, antimicrobial herbs, getting over some sort of illness, this specific type of probiotic can be useful for some. I don't necessarily think you need to be taking it daily on a long-term basis, but they certainly can be useful in some cases.
I'm about to talk to you about one of the biggest lies you've been told about gut health, and that is that heartburn is caused by too much acid in the stomach. Yes, this can be true for some, but for most people, heartburn is caused by too little acid in the stomach.
Totally agree. I think this is a misconception that more people should be aware of.
And this is a big problem because a lot of people have been put on acid blockers for long term, which could lead to many problems.
This is also true. When these acid blockers like proton pump inhibitors were invented, they were actually invented for people to use for 4 to 6 weeks in this time range in order to heal ulcers in the stomach. They were not meant to be used for 10, 20, or even more years for trying to prevent heartburn.
Firstly, acid blockers are not meant to be used long term.
All right, probably could have just listened. He would have said that.
And secondly, acid blockers could lead to deficiencies in key vitamins and nutrients like B12.
I'm a gut health dietitian, and here are the top 3 things that I saw on TikTok today that I would not recommend doing if you want to heal your gut and reduce your bloating.